to the service sector and to the shared service sector as well. Today, main topic is employer branding, and I have I would say, a very tough point of view in terms of employer branding in the shared service sector in Hungary, and it's really personal. So I don't reflect here Tranquilder's official opinion about it. It's the opinion of Balázs Génold, and I'm saying that in general there is a conflict of interest in the shared service sector's employer branding initiatives, especially in Budapest. The thing is that we are offering a type of job that is really in a mature business, a process-oriented and very much measurable and sustainable environment with all of its benefits and disadvantages. And on the other hand, the centers pretend to behave like startups. And what a shared service center, a captive center, a business center, however it is called, what is definitely not a startup. And I think the major challenge for us is how to erase this conflict of interest in the next period of time, because I know very well why everybody did it. We were targeting language speaker young graduates that can easy to educate on board, and they are highly productive and at speaking languages again. So what we are doing actually, we are attracting people who are educated and trained not for shared service centers, but for something very else. And we are offering them a nice office environment with lots of fun and very, how to say, ergonomic work environment. That's our call for working with us in many of the cases. But the truth is different, and there's so many things to offer by a center, and we don't use it because it's not that sexy. Stability, accountability, predictability is really three very important brand attributes that we don't build on. It's a lot of work. It's not that fancy, especially not that fancy for young, fresh graduates, sparkling in the campus. Yes, but I think my major message today, yesterday, and tomorrow is that please solve this issue, solve it together, and create a nice branding for the shared service industry that really reflect the real value of the jobs that we can offer. Thank you very much being here, and I offer you a very pleasant, or I wish you a very pleasant meeting and brainstorming. I think all of the presenters are great experts and have great experience, and they can really give added values that you can bring home already today. Unfortunately, I cannot stay, but I thanks for this this shirt. Nice. This brand new. Not everybody can have it. Just the core of ABSL. Yeah, I feel like that. So thank you very much, and enjoy the event.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everything is okay, Gabriela, in terms of
Yes.
Oh, we could have.
Got it.
Now everything is okay. Okay, so good morning, everyone. For those who don't know me, I'm Monika Slomska. A lot of things written there. What is important here that I'm board member of ABSL and fascinated person always to accommodate and facilitate the business breakfast for ABSL, especially with a lovely topic like this one, which is very close to my heart as well. But before we enter there, I will start with the round of introduction with Miklós. Maybe you can tell a few words about yourself.
Mickey Kotzor, hey everyone, thanks a lot for having us here. I wouldn't say what Balázs said that I'm an expert or someone special. I'm one of the group, and just sharing what we do, and if someone can learn from that, that's great. But I think we are together in the boat, and I'm leading the Term Official Scientific Shared Services here in Budapest for the last 2.5 years, and been with the company for 3.5 years.
Hi everybody, my name is Anita Svestovic. I'm the co-founder of BrandFizz, and I have 13 years of experience in employer branding. The first part was in corporate side at Mondelez in Germany, then Mall, and then after that at Tata Consultancy Services, which was a shared service center. And there I had the experience to build up the company from 650 to 2,000 when I left. And then after that, I had the, love project of my life to found an agency which is focusing only on employer branding. So no marketing, no recruiting, only on employer branding. And that's now having an impact on 40,000 people's lives through our clients. And we are also the co-founders of the European Association of Employer Branding Agencies. And I just returned from the World Employer Branding Day last week. So I'm very, pleased to be here and share as many thoughts which are also still, in my head from the last week, like what's going on in the world in this topic and what is relevant for us in this industry in Hungary.
Thanks, Anita. Marcus Martens. I'm the general manager of the Festa International Business Services. We call ourselves PIPS. We're on the market, visible since September, but started our journey to build a shared service near Budapest beginning of the year. By the way, I also wouldn't consider myself an expert. However, I think I'm a fast learner and I'm super curious. And if you guys want to talk to expert, I also brought Emma Ferrado, who's leading our employer branding in FestNav, and Christina Mona, who's leading the people department, who are really driving this program and making sure that we get the right EVP to the market. A little bit about myself. Before this, I was responsible for shared service in EY, and before that, I was with GE leading large operations and global transformations. I'm really excited about this.
Yeah.
So I have my pushka, but that's only a pushka. Sorry, these discussions become very random and very open, and I really encourage everyone to speak up and ask questions very openly, because that's how successful we can be when with discussions like this. So Anita, you mentioned that you just returned from the World Employer Branding Day. So what did you hear? What did you learn? What is employer branding in 2022?
I think what I will do now, or say out loud, everybody's gonna get like PTSD, because we are over a great resignation. I think this was the time of the great resignation. So nobody was talking really about the pandemic and how we are recovering from that, what we learned from it. But it was, and I think this is what we all experience also in this industry, is many times it's the great resignation, but the past 2 years and what we are living at the moment is like worse than before. On the other hand, there are other, pushes on the market. I don't want to go political, and I don't want to scare anybody about the environmental and political and all kinds of impacts what we are having on our decisions every day. Things are slowing down. Decisions are made slower, not only here in Hungary, but anybody who has to cooperate with stakeholders on the global level, approving budgets, approving whatever. But that's kind of like everybody talks about it like this is given. We have to be patient because nobody knows where to start. So the uncertainty is there. So I don't want to talk about it. I think you also experience it in your job. So one of this is the great resignation. The other is like things are getting a bit slower, and we require a lot of patience in, okay, unless there is a huge business push, okay, I have to build it up. or there is a business push, I don't know, there was a merger and acquisition and I have to manage the new brand that is, I don't know, incorporated in the identity of the acquired company. So there is always a business need which speeds up decisions. On the other hand, patience is needed. And in employer branding, the three major things what are there is the care, the learnability, and the people to people.
Okay.
And I'm going to elaborate on it a bit because it doesn't sound like so fancy at the moment, because I think you want to hear about campaigns and like what are the most successful ways of, I don't know, converting 200 candidates in 1 week. But I think it's very important to talk about the care part. When there is so much uncertainty around us, I think it's a huge advantage, but also this industry. And I think in the previous speech, the stability, the predictability, the environment, what we are able to provide, I think it's very important to put the emphasis on, especially in this industry, and how we are able to convert the care into the stability and vice versa. People need it. Everything is dangerous out there. And what we are able to do as a company, as an employer brand, in attracting, engaging, and retaining our talents is to care about and create a micro environment where there is a trust and where they can trust the people who come to us, or what we promise them, after that we keep that promise. So like we have to put the care part in it, because that is going to create like a microclimate where people feel safe. And that's utmost important now.
It's very interesting what you're saying, because you just mentioned like, the sector has to turn from the manufacturing recruitment or into caring and trying to retain as much as possible what they have in place. So this is a young generation mostly at the moment. I will return to the topic somewhere in my pushka, it's there. Anyway, we'll get there. So with this young generation, right? I mean, instability in the world is obvious as well for them. They go to shops, they try to buy food the same as
but it's very new for them.
It's very new for them. So how do you feel about service centers in particular? So because for any employer branding initiative, somewhere there is a product as an end result. So what is the desired product as an end result for service centers in particular?
It's hard to, I think I would reply on what you are asking now with the learnability, which was the second what I wanted to say, because that's the other thing what I see, like, and it's so easy to say this, like, okay, agile, adopt, what are the trends, but actually it's not anymore. It's like the learnability. Meta is on the way. The meta universe is on the way. Like we told and we saw, not employer branding videos, but we saw on the word employer branding, the metaverse and how we are going to interact in that world. We don't have to talk about it today, but like also as shared service centers, like finding always a new way how to show also and how to amplify what's inside, also outside. And I think we have to learn it. And every day there is something new. Oh, the TikTok is not approved on the global level. Can we create a local channel? Like there are so many ways of how we are able to put out there what's in-house. We are just many times not so fast in learning and adopting. So that would be my advice to the industry, is the learnability, because many times these companies has great things. It's just that so good in hiding it.
Marcus, are you good in hiding? So what is present?
Hide and seek.
So say again.
Are you good in hiding? How are you hiding or not hiding your things, being a new service center on the market?
Many thoughts go through my head right now, but I will let this just sink in. I'm not sure if I agree to really everything, but I agree to the learnability, and I agree that I think one, and then Balázs is not in the room, but he probably appreciates this, is we won't be able to deliver the same services on the market to the same audience we're trying to approach right now as we did 10 years ago, because frankly saying, is like, 25-year-olds are not too excited anymore of doing for the next 5 years just invoice booking or reconciliation. So the industry itself has to transform itself. Now, what we're doing as a new company, first of all, we knew that, but first priority is getting the job done. Right? We first need to establish ourselves. We first need to get people done. We need to be aware why we're here. But one thing which was super important for us, and before I even signed the contract that I'm going to do this job, we agreed that employee branding is one of the top priorities for us. Right? That was kind of part of the conditions amongst those that have a rockstar HR and enough money for employee branding. So what we're doing is actually not focusing too much on employee branding. Employee branding is something which is a reflection of what you're doing as a company, what your employee value proposition is, right? What your values are, what your culture is. What is it actually you're offering to the market, right? So what are the things you believe makes us special, makes us stand out? You have to be crystal clear about this. You also have, at the time of, before you go to employee branding, understand who do I compete with and how do we want to be different, right? So for example, we are a very small company. We're like 3 billion revenue compared with everyone else in the room. We are super small. Also, we are probably going to be one of the small shared service centers with 120 plus another 80, 90 in IT. So for us, we will have challenges. For example, I cannot promise somebody you're going to be the next CFO, right? Which big companies do, or you're going to be global program manager. We don't have global. We have 9, 10 countries. Right. So we are focusing on really not what our core values. Our core values is our culture. We're super people centric, and we're proving that every day. So and you see in this instance that we're saying, hey, we care, right? The point of care. We care a lot for our people, and there are a lot of people who want to be cared for. They want to have stability. Believe it or not, I think right now 20% of people coming to us report in interviews they've been burned out, or they've been close to burnout, or they didn't know how to manage private life and job life. This is who we want to be. And what we're doing right now is using this belief that you can be successful to bring human and professionalism performance together, and try with I would say a very smart approach to communicate it to the market. Right.
So that means that this is your unique value proposition, which you say that I'm different than anyone else on the market. Or at least you believe.
We're not trying to, so we're focusing on stability, on predictability, and saying this is a value. A lot of people who are joining us, they're joining us because they are now preferring that towards a promise of a stellar career. Everyone wants to see development. Without development, you cannot go to the market, and we know that, and we need to work on it. But stability, the human centricity, love, be yourself. You don't need to dress up to try to pretend someone else when you come into work for us. That is where we're saying we are different.
What's the average age you're hiring for?
Well, if the average between 22 and 45 is somewhere in his 30s. But what I'm very pleased with, and we have to be honest, where we're at 35-40% of our hiring, even amongst the junior or accountant jobs, we have a very wide range from 25 to 45. So we have all generations there. And to be very honest, our target group actually is somewhere in the more senior ones, where we're actively targeting for. And by the way, I'm saying it right now, so you're not allowed to do the same, right? This is be very important, right?
That's about being different. Right? Everyone will be different, then we go back to square one, right?
So we're in fact know which groups are looking for those kind of values, and we know the 25-year-old university graduate who did business and economics, they're not necessarily looking for those kind of things. So we're looking for those groups who are actually looking for that. And the team is really working on those.
Actually, I have to be honest, it's music to my ears personally, because I truly believe that this is the way to go. When we hire, I think that service centers should be really aiming to hire more and more or at least multi-generation organizations. And so you are sharing this as an experience from the start, basically. It will be really interesting to talk to you a year later, how that goes.
Yeah, in 6 months, we haven't hired anyone. We're reporting. You realize everything that guy said, all nice, but all bullshit.
Let's come back.
But okay, so how it goes? So you work together since long time, I guess. But Miklos, so you are through the journey of employer branding, I know, and congratulations, by the way. Your company won several prizes in terms of employer branding. And so yeah, I mean, well, whatever. I mean, you work together, so it's not a secret. And congratulations. What I really would like to ask you about is, what is the success story there, and do you measure the success story? Because the prize is very important for the company branding. But when it comes to day-to-day, to your people and care and every other thing which Anita even mentioned before, have you ever measured the success of that?
No, thanks a lot. And yes, we are working together, not for ages. I think it's 2.5 years.
That is ages in today's world.
Well, yeah, I mean, not in my, life,
It's 2 generations.
Yeah, we
I
started
still
when
need to adopt to that.
first 80 people had to be.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That was a specific team of IT where we joined up forces, and then we realized actually that's not something like a one-off that we can treat it as that, but it needs to become part of the journey. Like what Marcus mentioned, it's not like we do it once. Are we successful or not? I'm sorry to say, Anita, I'm not sure. If you measure success in terms of like people fighting at our doors, and it's like we can select for each and every role like from 20, 30, 40 people, and we can take the best. No, that's not the case. So the recent transition we were having, like the 150 folks we were hiring, it was sweat, tears, and blood. It was just like really we had to pull all levers to a certain limit. But it wasn't easy. We had every other week an emergency meeting, like it's not running, how to do that, how to go about that with 50+ German speakers, to be hired. It's like it was a killer. And we pulled many levers, and we had to adopt. And I'm learning. I'm not an expert in HR or employer branding or so, but we apply creative thinking and try to apply new things, and let's see whether it works or not. So it's like test and then we'll see what works. So I don't think there is some silver bullet I would share. I think it's a must to have. It's not a nice to have to have employer branding. If I would be doing that, I don't think I would have a job, honestly, because I'm sure the last transition would have been failing, and that means that I screwed it up, which we don't want to have. So therefore, it's kind of bread and butter part of our life and part of our success. To what Marcus said, I couldn't add anything really, because it's really about defining yourself, whether we want to be special or not. I mean, yes, we are saying it's more the D&I aspect, so diversity and inclusion, where we want to be special. It could be anything else, but it's the people aspect. But it's much more to me expressing ourselves to the external world, who we are, and trying to somehow bring that across. Because if there is a message that you bring across and people coming in and they are experiencing something very different, they're going to leave immediately. I would leave immediately. It was a fake, kind of great marketing and employer branding event, and that's it. If the hearts and the souls are not connected to what we are doing, hence all what we are doing are coming from our team members. We call them ambassadors, who are giving their names, their faces, their voices on all the activities, and they are the ones. It's not me who is defining Thermo Fisher Scientific Budapest. Not at all. Thanks God. It's our people. They are the ones who are visible. They are creating the value. They are creating the perception that is hopefully appealing to many of the colleagues out there.
You mentioned that basically, it's a learning lesson. It's an experience by itself. So if you think about what you have done 1 year ago, 2 years ago, and what you are no longer doing, and thinking to change completely in terms of your strategy. So what would be the most important way to share?
I don't think we've been taken away too many things. What I would do differently, also with an intern team, the university focus, I would dial up much earlier, because we are about to dial that up this year. We did some work already the last year, but that's kind of our strategy. We are a big enough shared service center by now, so 750 as we stand, to create the right pipeline in moving in very junior people, fresh graduates, and then developing them, because that's a big need as well. Just to show them the career path. Again, there is some work that we are doing around that as well. And then, so keeping them along for quite long. So that's kind of the pipeline we are shooting at. Probably, so it's also the right time. But if I would go back in time, I would be starting that earlier. And also think how we can work together, as ABSL, as shared services, whether through MCHEM or BSS or in any way. And I usually call out Debrecen, which is a great example how the shared service centers that joined up, and they have joint programs with the university. It's very appealing what they do there. So that's kind of, I think we could also pursue and do more as a joint activity. Not sure I answered your question. Share my thoughts.
Partially.
Maybe in the measurements, I mean,
A measurement, that's the
yeah,
one, yes.
I mean, when there is something what they're doing, okay, there is a billboard campaign all around Schwabish villages around Budapest.
Donald Schwab.
Schwab.
Let's see properly.
Then those are the villages or little towns where the most German speakers live. There is German speaker, I don't know, high schools. There are a lot of people who have this as a language. Then we do a billboard campaign around that. Then we measure the success. Or when there is a, I don't know, you do a presentation for bioengineers, and there are, I don't know, 80 students sitting there who are studying bioengineering and listening to your presentation. That's a success measure. So like project-based, of course, there is always a success measure, but in overall, I think the biggest success that the people have.
For your internal branding. So since you work together since 2.5 years in terms of employer branding, so for your internal employer branding, have you, so except of regular, I guess you are doing some yearly survey, WhatsApp, or people are happy to work there. But overall, do you have any other measures or any other feedback which you're collecting from employees or how they feel in the company?
We do quite a lot on that, and it's more informal than formal. We do have those value surveys. It's just closing today. We had to extend the deadline globally because participation rate wasn't that great than it was last year. So from an external environment, I think the kind of the depression or that that tells it as well a little bit. People are less keen to share, but I'm sure they're going to end up with a great number. What we do, and how we do that is like the informal connection points. Every month we have a morning coffee with one of the two leaders. Anyone can join, ask random questions, no agenda, no presentation, coffee, and let's take it. We do have regular Q&A sessions with the broader team as well. And there is a very informal way people are approaching me and the SLT members pretty regularly. Mickey, I have a problem, although I think we are getting to a size where we a little bit need to formalize that more, because it's hard to reach those 750 people, but still, that kind of culture is there. It's a really open door policy, and anytime I get it really directly this week as well, I really have an issue, I really want to talk to you now on that, and how to solve it, how to overcome. So I rather do it in an informal way if that's existing and that's working. That's my preference. If it's not working, we need to establish some structures, and hence we have a few structures, but it's much more informal. And we are doing like stay interviews. So like people were wondering why would you do that? I don't want to leave, but that's exactly the point. I don't want you to consider to
Go to
happy to
Fresno.
share some great talents to Fresno. Sorry, Marcus, but certainly, I mean, we want to keep great people. So therefore, it's just like engaging them proactively and talking about anything that they want to talk about. So,
Anita, when you are entering into a project for a service center in particular, so what do you define as an expert, as a consultant for yourself? What is the success? What is really the successful project? I would say it's really successful.
I think the things get done. I think it's very simple. I think in our industry, it's very hard that there are so many stakeholders and everything is metrics and approval levels and somebody is sitting in Uruguay, the other in Costa Rica, the third one in Austin in America. And then so many people, like I think I already cut one head of the dragon and then two other is growing. So I think the measure of success in the shared services that things are getting approved and done and bringing the results. Actually, it's really like, especially when it's a bigger organization, and it wasn't part of because when it's part of the DNA from the beginning, when it's on your agenda and you have it on your flag, then it's gonna go on. But when there wasn't a budget for it, when there is a PO opened in the UK for a talent acquisition, I don't know, project, and there is one person who should be able to manage it and actually has no time and energy and focus and capability. And even though the local management wants to have it as a side project, but the PO is coming from somewhere else, then I'm just praying like, can we get things approved and moving? And that's the measure of success actually many times in the shared service centers, because it's so complex. And I sometimes say it's like takes a village to get there because it's so many people coming to the play, unless there is a local side project. And I don't know how they are putting together the PO, but approvals are getting done, things are getting released. We are able to try testing things, measuring, bringing the results. Did it work out well? How many people attended? 80% of our ambassadors are not happy. Then what can we do about them? So like very simple things. But I think the measure of success in the shared services sector is having it kicked off and keep it running and getting it approved and done and do.
It's a very interesting duty for the service center leaders, because
It is.
that's something they have to include in their budget. They have to estimate these amounts and they have to fight. Literally, they have to fight for it to make sure that it happens. So Marcus, how did you fight for it, or did they fight with you?
So Festnaf is a very entrepreneurial company. I think everyone what I mean. I think in the shared citizen district, we probably broke the world record in Facebook account opening approvals.
Yeah.
No obstacles. We just did it.
That's a very time record.
We just did it. We just made sure that we all agree on what the messages to go out. At the end of the day, the content. But even content-wise, the team has been completely created, and we took the local content and we created a local copywriting. So we are probably the benefit of a small company is we are much more agile. There are almost no approval chains. We're basically reporting directly to the board, so it's super easy for us. But I think how to measure success, right? That's this question. The first thing for us is, I'm not going to measure how many people come into the office or how is our recruiting working, because the reality is, what is your goal of employer branding? And for us at Festnaf, and that's not just Festnaf Hungary, not just Hungary Clips, but it's like when people think about Festnaf, right? First of all, I think we have the second strongest brand on the Hungarian market in terms of followers on Facebook, because we have the cutest posts with the cutest animals. But not because people believe that Festnaf can offer true meaningful careers. People think about working at Festnaf, they think about the people who they meet in the store. They say like, oh yeah, they're great people, super passionate people, but do I want to work there? Right now, our job is to show that we are a strongly expanding company. We just moved into Romania, we're moving into Sweden, we're moving into Netherlands. We're a European market leader for pet supplies. We are moving into pet insurances, digital projects. So we are going to build an entire ecosystem. In order to do that, we need to have great people. We have to have great people in technology, in logistics, and so many areas, which is not just our store. So our goal is when I'm going out in a year and do a survey, people understand that Fressnapf is more than just people in the store. That's the first success criteria. And probably we're going to do some employee service, but also others. And second one is I probably will count the referrals, right? That tells you how strong your internal brand is in swapping over, and people accept, oh yeah, I can imagine that is a good career. But then we go into the technicals, right? So we're on a weekly basis measuring what's our reach, because at the end of the day, it's good I have a belief, but if my message doesn't get to anyone, then I can't have the influence. And same as product marketing, let's face it, we are the product in this case, right? The customers are the people who want to apply. We have to make sure we measure how we're reaching the people, so we can create these emotions created by Mickey's teams when they go out. And the truth is, when we are looking around what we want to do, we looked a lot at what Tim Fisher is doing, because at least I think we thought they create emotions, they are present, they are visible, and this is the same kind of goals we had, right? So long term, I think long term we are going to measure, but now, I mean, for everyone who thinks about should they invest, because should I invest in employer branding? I think the question is, can you afford not to? Because you're competing, right? And at the end of the day, like, you know, think about how you're making your purchasing decisions, right? If you want it or not, you probably, anything you bought, everything you have on your own issues, you probably bought it because you felt good about it, and it shows exactly that brand, exactly that, even though you have millions of choices, probably choices of better ones. So for us, it's more important to be present as a choice. And if we do not present ourselves, people will not respond to an advert in the newspaper looking for a controller, right? Because it's like, why Fressnapf? Fressnapf, no? That's what we want to accomplish.
And actually, for your Fressnapf job, so for what I understand, obviously, for the first impression, someone's thinking about Fressnapf, yeah, stores, pets, colleagues in the shops. So when you're advertising your jobs, are you advertising those as a service center jobs at Fressnapf, or are you advertising jobs at Fressnapf, and then what is the selling strategy?
Well, first of all, I don't consider it selling, okay, right? Because we're not trying to sell something.
What is the
so we're just communicating our value proposition. In the beginning, so we follow a multi-stage employee branding strategy. In the beginning, we just introduced Fressnapf as an employer, creating brands, the values of the company. So it was completely independent on Fressnapf itself. We are having a landing page, a career page. When people go on there, they immediately see it's shared service. We want to make sure we didn't want to promise them something that it's really not, right? Like the banks who are doing shared service centers. And then, as you were saying, like, okay, you believe you're going to be an investment banker, and then you book AP invoices. So we want to make sure we are authentic, and on the career page, it's there. Now we're going to the next stage where we're talking more about the jobs that we're doing. And these jobs here in Hungary right now, because are really focused on shared service, but also IT and also data science, right? So these are three things we're advertising, right? And in the future, we're just the first because we're hiring very, very hard. We also have looking in the future for logistics and others. So right now, the jobs we're offering are shared service positions, and we are through the landing page, through the career page, people will be clear what it is. Even though I don't think shared service is something bad, right? People in the past wanted to do accounting and controllers. Now they just have a lot of colleagues who are doing the same, right? So we are not saying, okay, you're joining shared service. First, you're joining Fressnapf, in a role in shared service?
Actually, I was just, yeah, my mind was just, functioning in a moment when you said, okay, they are not joining, we are not saying they are joining shared service, although that part of the job is shared service. I mean, the meaning of shared service. I mean, frankly speaking, the generation which you are at the moment, I mean, not you, but you're hiring for, they have no idea what is shared service. So for them, it doesn't really matter. But in terms of perception of shared service, is it, so how is it, Anita? What is the perception of shared service?
Multinational company.
That's it, that's the perception.
I
of
mean,
that.
we can elaborate on that, but at the end of the day, that's what it is.
Okay,
It's a multinational company where I can do certain jobs. And I think Big Four, shared services, yeah, some other like white collar jobs, like where you are able to put a label on it. Okay, it's a, I don't know, a bit separated industry. But at the end of the day, it all became like under like a white collar job. I go to an office, it's a multinational company, I have a laptop, I have processes, I have things to do, it's 9 to 5, and I do it. And depending on what is the persona, and I like to talk about it when it comes to shared services, there is the high flyer and the safety player. This I like to define when we talk about the key target groups in shared service centers. The high flyers, they are good for transition. When the things has to be taken to Hungary, they build up the processes, they go out, they build network, they manage the change. So they have to be more outgoing. They will be the ones who will get bored after 1.5 years and then the transition is over. I know you don't know what to give to them. And there is a safety player who is doing sommelier course after work, who is playing in a band, who, I don't know, wants to go home to take care of the dog in the lunch break and go for a dog walk. Those are the safety players. I know I have a job, I can do my hobby, I can take care of my children, I have a private life, it's a 9 to 5 job, and I don't want to do transition. I don't want to, I don't know, overstress about the backlog. I just want to have the 9 to 5. And of course, there are different facets in this, but more or less, you are able to put together a good mix of video retention plan on the longer run, like what was the percentage of the high flyers and the safety players, so that there is not too big resignation coming and then the business continuity is not going to be there. But this is what I see, and I don't want to build it up as a rocket science and say that, okay, it's something extraordinary. Actually, shared service centers are becoming more popular than Big Fours. Like sweat and tears, Big Four hiring, sweat and tears.
And we will come.
Any comments? Any comments you can
Absolutely.
Okay, so.
So we can talk about like the reputation of the industry,
No.
but it's an honest discussion, as you told me.
It's a long discussion about the yeah. So, what is really the reputation of the industry? That's another story of why we think that. I mean, should we or should we not elaborate on whether it's a service center?
We should be very credible.
It should be very credible.
We have discussion. So I believe two things. First of all, people don't join an industry unless you're the banking industry.
Yeah.
People agree.
Yeah.
Besides the banking industry, I can think of no industry, right, where people say, I want to join that industry. So we are employers. We want people to join employers. However, and on that note, people do not know what we're doing because we are international companies. We are hiding behind all kind of lingo. People don't know what that means. R12, what the heck is that? ABSL, whatever is that? So we know we struggle to particularly if you want to hire people from outside of the shared service industry, right? Who have not gone through the school of learning all English, right? To explain what we're doing. So if we want to brand something, if we want to as a community go out there, then I wouldn't focus on the industry, but I focus on what we're doing.
Exactly, position branding. So like actually make people understandable how they will look like, what you will exactly do, with whom you will be working together, and how it is looking like actually.
Yeah, well, it's a very interesting,
Behind the
it's a very
abbreviations.
interesting comment you are making. I have a personal experience. We have a experience together on one of the programs I'm teaching, and it's exactly the case. We are translating kind of obvious, but not obvious things of what is the job of records to report accountant or whatever the other code name is. So if you are so coming back to branding of the positions even. So if you are saying basically people are doing the same as any other people, controller is controller, accountant is accountant, whatsoever. But we like to divide these positions and jobs and into certain categories. So why not promote those exactly the same as anywhere on the industry to make our life easier?
Let's ask somebody who is consolidating the interests of the industry.
Oh yeah. I asked Miklos first. How do you publish your jobs, Miklos?
I'm just thinking, but I don't think we are explaining really what it means. Although what we did, like maybe in the recent example I've been sharing in a recent major transition, we've been issuing together with the lady on my left. We've been creating some videos a day in the lifetime of a customer care. What they do. So it's like walking around the office with their coffees, meeting friends, escalations happening, someone banging on their head, issues, but then also some laugh, then getting together, solving it. So it's just someone bringing it to life, very short videos, just to help you there. Is it all landing in terms of measuring success or not? It's really hard to tell. You can look at how many people have been watching it or what we are measuring, which I'm really proud about, and I don't know why is it working like that. We are running Spotify series like for the last 1.5 years. Podcasts so on Spotify and iMusic and all that. If you look for them, you find it. And we've been the first one in the entire company. And the good thing is those are like 12-15 minute sessions, and 86, I think, is the percentage. 86 of people starting to listening to that are listening to the entire 12-15 minutes, which is huge. I mean, 15 minutes. It's like
who has time for that?
It's really long. Just purely listening to a conversation. But the conversation is not about this is my job. When an invoice comes in, then I'm doing that. It's much more about the persona. So why are you there? Why is it appealing to you? What do you actually outside of the work? What you're struggling with? Any career opportunities? How you see your future? And then so it's a very live and easy digestible discussion, I would say. But with that, people just somehow relate. Okay, that's kind of then. Okay, then I could be like her or him or. Is it again working? Is it super appealing? Did anyone join because they've been listening to those Spotify? No, but what I'm learning as well from employer branding, I don't know how many touch points you need to create, at least 7, but probably in this new world, probably it's 70 rather. You need to create those touch points that people get to know and have that feeling why to join a company and emotions. If they get that tick that it would be great to join Fressnapf at the end, then they will join.
But in terms of the job content, right? Because let's say I'm listening to this, what you're just saying. I feel very passionate about joining Thermo Fisher culturally. Okay, not me. I'm not joining anyone anymore, except my own. These are the most fast decisions making processes and budgets when you are on your own, jokes aside. So I joined Thermo Fisher as a potential employee, but I still have no idea of what I'm going to do. So this return of how is it measured, or is it at all obvious that what is afterwards the success rate? Somebody joins you and then he or she will figure out what needs to be done then in that job is not for her or for him at all. So this is not what they originally planned for. but the company culture is great. It's good to be here, a lot of friends, a lot of people to discuss, and you're always accessible. So in terms of return on, on the talent pool, on the investment itself, on the attention of how to retain the talent there. So do you have anything specific on your plans for the future, or do you have it now? How to attract the person to the job within the company culture?
I think the onboarding is pretty straightforward, and after that, everything is really, I think the team leaders take a lot of responsibility, and the managers. So then after that, it's more like the micro teams who are responsible for the rest. So that's process-wise organized. So I don't have an insight on that.
Yeah, what we are doing that is really appreciated by people on the feedback received, that they haven't been experiencing that many times in their past, is that we do have 5 half days of onboarding, none of that operational. It's all about the company. There is a half day, 4 hours, only on our values. We have 4 core values, and it's a very playful manner. And we are creating, everyone is painting at the end of the day, an atom with the colors of the values, and then we are sticking that together to a big molecule. Like silly thing you might think, but it's like people really love it. And that big molecule is in the middle of our town hall, and people, whenever they join, they stick it together with the new joiners. And they put it on there, and it's growing and growing and growing, and it's very different. That's only one element. And then we are measuring the first 90 days as well. From an operational perspective. There is a buddy program as well, where they can get some help. And yes, in many instances, like the recent example from the transition we had, there was one team which we haven't been scoping it properly, what it would mean. And we had like almost 100% attrition in that team, which is not great during a transition, because people didn't want to talk on phone. It was very interactive with the customers, very speedy, and very specific knowledge has been required, which we haven't been preparing for. And we learned as we went. And many of those guys moved into the back office because it turned out they don't want to talk to customers. It's too much of a stress. So we are adopting. So I think that's to me the most important as we go adopting. It would be great if we would have known that in advance, that we have been preparing for that. Next time we are going to do a much more rigorous assessment of what exactly we are going to bring in. It's not just like, don't worry, it's going to be fine, because we might screw it up. So agility, I think, as we go, always this is kind of key.
We talked a lot about competition in Budapest, obviously, like a literary killing competition in Budapest. So is there any trick difference in employer branding strategy to go out of Budapest and hire elsewhere, or build something elsewhere? Any experience?
We had to hire 100 Java developers. And then we said, okay, can we go outside of the border of Budapest, because then maybe it's going to be possible. And actually what we did was we went to Miskolc, we went to Szeged, and we went to Debrecen. And we defined, okay, out of this 100, how many have to relocate to Budapest? How many can do home office? And it turned out 80% can do home office. Oh, great. Then let's find those ambassadors, because amplifying the voice of the people who are already in-house, and they are a father of 2 and happy that could move back to Szeged and able to take the child every morning to the kindergarten by walk, check on the parents if they are good. And this matters to people, and that's when I say people to people. And then we build up a campaign in Szeged with Gábor, who was a persona of somebody who was happy that he doesn't have to commute every single day 2 hours to an office, but was able to move back to the original city. And Java developing is also happening from there. And we put also a package of a good amount of money to create your own home office at home, because when you have children, obviously you need your private space, and for that we had to support this. The other was another persona who 2 years of experience. The world is mine. I have a motorbike. I like to ride my motorbike around the neighborhood. I like going back for lunch and Sunday lunch to my parents. Still, the Mama Hotel here and there is like very useful because I want to spend my money on my motorbike. And the other campaign was about that you don't have to move to Budapest, but you can do the developing and coding from this part of the country, and you can do your hobby, you can keep your friends, you can ride your bike, and these things work because we simply show that in this job, these things which are important for you are going to work out. And then you are able to say, okay, in this hiring wave, X% of the people I'm happy to I don't know, relocate or allow them to come in every 2 weeks, every week once only. Also at time when there are people coming from Nyíregyháza, from here and there, like once in a week because of the working hours or like the home office possibilities. So these ones should be also there on the agenda because everything we are not able to do only in Budapest.
What I just say, I just want to re-emphasize it. You ask about employee branding outside of Budapest. And while it's being done, I think the 90% of the workforce, understanding who's your customer and what is your value proposition, and not about where you're advertising, because ultimately I said like, we're advertising everywhere. We're the internet, we're advertising anywhere, right?
Exactly.
But understanding who you want to hire and then tailoring it and communicating it clearly, I think that's a challenge. And
But what I am hearing also from the message of Anita, that basically open your door, go outside of Budapest.
no.
Try to-
Let them stay in Budapest.
You go out.
Where we go. Let them
You
stay in
go and they
Budapest.
stay,
So-
yes. That's how you can be different, yeah.
Yeah.
So is there any specific difference or is there any difference at all in terms of employer branding or attraction, let's say, Szeged or anywhere, Mako in Hungary, when you're trying to raise attention to Thermo Fisher?
In eBay, we had the experience when we had to, or we were supporting building up the location.
Page, it was Page, I remember.
Or Page,
yes.
what child Page. And then that was like Maradj és Haladj Pécsen. So like stay and progressive Page. And then the message was like, there's a very good university there, people study there. And then they always dream about moving to Budapest to have a like, I don't know, outstanding job. But like when the company comes there and those, I don't know, very exceptional opportunities are also available in your home city or in the city where you studied, then you don't necessarily have to move out. And then we had to talk to the heart of the people who were like, yeah, I studied here and I can make an exceptional career here. And that's about also the location branding. And I'm very excited about going to Debrecen soon to the HR Festival to do that because that's a hot region now about also the region branding. Many companies growing there, a lot of hiring needs, so that's also an interesting one. But it's a location branding as well, and like how you can find your opportunities in that city or in that company. So this can be tailored, yeah.
Do you plan to hire this way?
I mean, that's a hot topic, and it goes both ways for me. Because and I'm also struggling myself, honestly. I do believe that creating the belonging is the one that is going to keep people at the company. Certainly, we need to offer proper career opportunities, salaries, a great culture. But if they don't feel attached to that company for some reason, it could be anything, then it's going to be hard to retain them. And I still believe, probably I'm too old to just adopt to the young generation, is that not being in the office and, not clapping on someone's shoulder. When I'm walking around in the office, I'm in the office every single day. But, just, having those chit chats and meeting someone. Yesterday I had someone as well, but they are all energized by that, probably not, but some at least, hopefully. So that means a lot, and in terms of who they are, what they belong to, what's happening. This year is our 4th birthday week in our office, so lots of all our employee resource groups have been organized many events. So there is a lot happening in the office. So it's really great to work. And we have 4 big groups of visitors and stakeholders coming. It's like the hotel business we are running these days. It's just like, but there is a lots happening. There is really great buzz. It feels good for me. That's probably what I'm trying to digest. Does it feel also great for a 22-year-old person who wouldn't care that much? I still think, and these are my boundaries, that it makes a difference for them as well, irrespective from age. But to answer your question, so that's how much we want to go into remote and how much not. From a company policy perspective, we shouldn't. Do I making some exceptions? I do. You are well aware, we just been on a university event last week, I think. And where we are offering, it would be great if you could move to Budapest, but if not, then if you're a great talent, we find ways to manage them. Is it a similarly appealing message than EY did? No, not at all. But that's kind of my framework I can play in. So
is it enough competitive, you think, to stand out from the crowd?
Well, do I stand out from the crowd from a remote opportunities perspective? No, I'm not. I'm the only guy, from that sense. Are there other opportunities to stand out from the crowd, which goes back to people, D&I, who we are, what we do, how we help the work, because it's really a big impact. Also, people, on the phone, it's easier, for us, I think, because people really feel those customer care guys on the phone. It's lives who are going to depend on that, whether they are going to manage it. It really does. So whether that equipment is being fixed or delivered to that hospital, it makes a huge difference. And hence, we have an hour to do that. And if it's not there, then it's like, goes up like super senior level. Is that creating a super stressful environment? It does. But is it kind of also helping you just to feel, well, if I did manage that well, I might saving lives. I think that's a pretty cool feeling. So therefore, this is what we are trying to balance, and it's probably not the remote one where we are going to be known for, but probably something else.
I wish was there that I'm probably also a person who values presence. However, we're trying to approach it a little bit different, right? We're not focusing on be in the office or don't be in the office.
Spending valuable time.
So the belonging is super important, and we're focusing on why we believe there's value created. We'd rather talk about the framework. What do we want to accomplish? And for most people, they logically think like, okay, maybe it's worse to achieve this, to be in the office, without saying you have to be in the office. Because what happens if you tell people you have to be in the office twice a week? So what are they doing? They're figuring out the 2 days, which are more convenient for their schedule. And then they're just being present and they're working from there. They're spending 8 hours in Teams meeting, and 0 of what we want to actually accomplish by people being in the office has been accomplished. Most companies focusing on that. They have their right heart, they know why it's important, but they don't focus on actually communicating and empowering them to actually focus on these belongings. So I like what you're hearing, because you didn't say about presence, you spoke about belonging. I think that's what we're doing, because we have this conversation right now, right? Because we are also a brick and mortar company. Everything in FastStart was built based on handshakes, right? So it's super personal interactions, right? So the company there is also, the good thing is we are fully empowered. We can do whatever. So hey, everyone has the right to stay at home 3 days, but if you want to do more, it's up to the managers. So and we're thinking right now, let's move away from what's the right days. Let's think about what do we want people to do? How do we want people to build trust to each other? How do we want people to learn? Because let's face it, learning in a remote setting is multitasking. People don't learn, right? So we are trying to focus on that. and we're actually in the process. So I can't say like, hey, this is working, but this is the way how we're thinking about it. And then figuring out, and at the end of the day, I have to trust that people believe that it has a value for them to come into the office. And you know, if I look at one individual and the trust is there, and the person knows how to swim like a fish in water in the organization, that person can work 120% from home, right? But most people who join in here, you know, we know it will take time to come into the organization, make sure people can trust you, et cetera, et cetera. So we're focusing like you on the belonging, what actually we want to accomplish with it. And then we're not talking about being in the office, but we're creating the events, the framework for people to have the longing for the office, or not the office, but for the people, because where they meet each other, I also.
So, learning. Is upskilling or reskilling part of any employer branding initiatives nowadays? Maybe question to you, Anita, because you see more employer branding initiatives.
Upskilling, reskilling.
Is it part of the employee value proposition nowadays or not very much?
I would say in the production, so like manufacturing industry, it's a hot topic because of the betanított munkás, like the operator level, and like upper, like more knowledgeable, technical, close to technician level, and then the technician and close to kind of engineering level. It's very important because imagine in the manufacturing at the moment, I'm not receiving a part, so I'm storing something here, but then I have to move the people here to do the other part as long as we are waiting for the chip to be arriving. And like, so there the reskilling, upskilling, and like there I see it very, very important. In shared services, I don't see it.
You don't see it important, or you don't see that?
I don't see it happening.
You don't see it happening.
I don't see it happening. I
So-
see it happening more really in the manufacturing.
So do you, I mean, it's a question to you as a leader. So at least for me, I would say that upskilling and reskilling is a part of employee value proposition where I can attract more various talent from various talent pools. But I don't hear anybody talking about it as a part of the employee value proposition. Why?
Horeca was a huge industry from where you guys could hire in the past years because of COVID. Everybody who was working in hotels, in hospitality, they lost their job because of this and that. I think that was a great talent pool, teachers, and that's very sad at the moment, but this is what it is. I think that this one I see happening.
But I don't think it's an employee value proposition, the reskilling, the training and development is, I think we were discussing this, but for us, we're right now too small. We don't have the scale to really invest and build up our own development and training programs. If we can do it, but we discussed it, and we are open and seeking for opportunities to collaborate, but we're just too small. But again, I don't think it's an employee value proposition. It's something which you invest in. It's your message. Are you going to willing to bring people who can't do the job today, but train them so that they can do it tomorrow? So you can say like, okay, I don't care what you've been doing, as long as you speak German, I will teach you if you have the passion.
How is that different compared to what you hire today? I mean, maybe not you, but generally for the first level shared service center.
I mean, we're right now, unfortunately, we have to lead transitions. You explain very well.
I'm talking in general, right? So if you have a mass recruitment, how is that different? Literally, people are hired to the service center with speaking language, whoever they are, right? Being teachers, being whatever other degrees they have. So they need to learn this profession. So how is that different to hire somebody from tourism industry or from closing hotel, which are actually literally closing one by another because they are not able to survive in the current economic status? So I'm just trying to really understand better, because I personally feel is a further opportunity for the sector to reach out to the talent which is not actively, you know, searched for, let's say this way, not in a way as it possibly could be, because every single company stands in front of the door of the university in whatever level, and literally the talent pool which comes out of there with whatever language skills and whatever degree still doesn't have a clue what to do unless you invest and train. So what's the difference? Why we don't go out?
I don't think there is a difference, honestly. The only difference I see, because when we were, before all of those bigger transitions, we are assessing the markets as well. The language, do we have the right talents there? Are we going to be able to reach them, etc.? And once we do that, the whole service industries included in that, and we included teachers as well. So all the people that you've been referring to. Are we targeting some of the messages to them? No, we haven't been doing that. It's just like being very open. Anyone can join. The only difference, what I've seen, is that people who've been experienced in shared services before are most likely to stay on the long term. I've seen a lot of people joining, which more than welcome. Teachers from the hotel industry, etc. And then they said, well, but actually I love what I was doing. I love it more than this, which I can understand. Same there. I'm not feeling very passionate about hiring a teacher, because that teacher should really teach my kids and other kids as well. They shouldn't be working in a shared service for living, honestly. But if that's their kind of preference, now I'm happy to help and hire them. But I see a higher attrition level from that, which doesn't say we shouldn't invest in it. We do, irrespective of that, we do hire people, and then some people are going to realize that's a great opportunity. They're just loving it and they're going to stay. What we are hiring for is really the values and the persona. This is what I'm trying to emphasize, and how to manage stress, how you cope with customers, how you still stay patient, how you can, stay or leave, all that, behind yourself once you are, or behind you once you go home, etc. So that's super important, because people being in that rhythm, it's gonna kill them if they are not.
Probably Balázs would be here. He would have a lot of ideas to share about that, but maybe the next time. But to me personally, I think that someone standing behind the reception desk in a hotel with hundreds of guests, and he or she has to serve it in 3 languages and constantly stressful because somebody is complaining or having whatever issues, is an ideal customer care representative, in my view. But that might be just me.
Absolutely.
But anyway,
We have, I know at least 5 interviews ahead, I think 3 we hired, who actually came from the hotel industry to shared service.
We do the same, and even a university degrees, it's not a must.
Yeah, it's working pretty well, and I think it's not employer branding; it's a campaign. Because I saw companies doing like no kata, no para, come and join us, BP. So you can take advantage of certain political or whatever situations for hiring because of the Ukraine, hiring because of the kata closing, hiring or whatever. It's up to your taste how you do such a campaign, but that's not employer branding, and I'm gonna put this on the table now.
okay, so last questions to you, Anita. 5 tips, really 5 tips for to stand out from the crowd.
I love this 5 because I wrote it down because not that it's 3 or
How many you have?
actually I have 5. No, I think it's going to be a summary of what we said. So I think one of them is like employer branding is, I always call it as an umbrella. So it's not like, because when we think about silos, so like the company is built up in silos, there is HR, there is marketing, there is this business function, there is that business function, and here is HR, and somewhere in HR there is a trainee who is doing employer branding. That's not employer branding. Employer branding is an umbrella under which each and every business function can find something which is a business need, and where we are going to come together to a touch point and cooperate so that the entire organization is becoming a more attractive and engaging and a better employer. So it's everybody's job. You just have to set certain priorities, and you have to have some light hours in the organization who are managing that, like people from your teams. So I think that's very important, that employer branding is the umbrella of how especially the shared services are working, because the heart of our business are the people. I think and for that reason, the amplifying the voices of people is very important. If you, like, for example, that's for me a very warning sign. It happened to me in shared service. Okay, we come and we want to record testimonial videos, because when there is nothing approved, then we do testimonial videos. And then you come and do testimonial videos, and you are begging for people to come. The person who is responsible is not able to put together a list of 6 people who are willing to participate. You are at the agency, come here and manage it. Okay, we go there, and my colleagues literally begging to people on the corridor, give your face and talk why you like working here. And you know what they are doing? They are hiding, they don't want to, and it's not the camera. So if you're not able to amplify the voices of the people, then you have to really look into yourself. Like, do you have something to share? Like, yeah, I want to share the story that Mickey on the corridor is approachable, and I can tell him that, hey, I have a problem, and he's most probably going to address it to the right channels. And this is why I love working here. It doesn't have to be something extraordinary, just one single story, a testimonial story. So the amplifying the voices, I think it's really, really important. And all of you have frameworks, guidelines, global things to be implemented in Hungary, but many of your industries or company, or many of your mother industry or mother companies are doing different than what we are doing here in Hungary. The local identity is key. So building it up that we are not the people who are selling something on the stores, we are not the field service engineers, but we are enabling them to work and do their job. Actually, that's the local identity. So all the framework, what you are getting, you have to partner with the global stakeholders in a proper way, that they consider you here locally as a partner, to give you the freedom to build your and have your own identity and fill in the content what you actually have here in Hungary. Because it's going to be very different than how it's observed from the chair of the global CEO, I think. And I think it's very, I don't know if it's 5 or 4, but the last one. Yeah, then the fourth is the do it. So I think that was very resonating, that shared services is a mature industry and we are behaving as a startup. And why? Because we are not doing what we could be doing. So like, do it, get the approval, get it there, sign the contract only when you can do it. So it's necessary. And your employer brand exists even if you don't do anything about it, because these people talk to each other. And they write a message on Messenger to a friend. Hey, like, I see you work there, or you are working there, how is it? So you have to do it. And fifth is that Hungary is a very efficient country in terms of quality and cost. And when you are coming to getting approval, and I see budgets in America and how much it costs in Germany and how much it costs in Austria and how much it costs in like different countries, Hungary is very efficient. And I see companies doing also different country employer branding because it was working in Hungary. And could you do it in Austria as well? Could you help us? Can you share the benchmark within the company? Because it was started here, it was affordable, it was efficient, numbers are there, it's working, and you can, when you do it already and you have results, you can also be the flagship of other locations worldwide for other locations, maybe for Romania or for other countries. So I think these would be the 5.
I have a very provocative question, the last one. Oh, that's really What is the branding? What is the branding the best branding to within the organization to advertise the service center well towards the headquarters, which are struggling a little bit of understanding the concept of SSCs, although they want one. Because all of these companies, they all want to have a service center. Actually, typical examples are German middle-sized companies. They all want to have a service center, but they don't really understand the idea behind so well. So they really need help. And in terms of branding, service center particularly, is there any trick? How more jobs, more initiatives, more approvals can come?
I mean,
More faster transitions?
for German companies, it's relatively easy. 90% of the German companies decide on shared service because they have few very strong consulting companies which are really pushing them as a transformation, driver for transformation, right? As a driver for talent, lack of talent, as a driver for cost out, right? So what you need to understand is what is your company looking for, right? For us, it's quality, right? And for us, it's talent pool. So where our priorities in advertising that it's good to work with us together, we're trying to get really great talent, particularly in the beginning, right? Which means maybe people which are maybe too good for us, it doesn't matter, because we are in the trust building process. And second one up, we have to deliver on the quality piece, right? So same as with employees, you need to know what that company is looking for and then build that trust, right? And you know, every company has something else they're looking for, right? Some just look for cheap labor, right? I'm pretty sure TCS can tell
Cheap
you.
or cheap?
Currently, it's still, you know, with advanced AI, maybe cheap as well, but
That's not on the, that's
No.
not, yeah.
no, it boys. I think one thing I'm observing in the last 10 years, you have to do much more work to know your customer in every aspect of it, no matter if you're working in employer branding, if you're a leader who has to sell the services, or if you're an e-commerce giant who wants to sell stuff. Know your customer, it should be on top of your mind because there's too many choices, there's too much information, so you need to be super focused.
I think it goes back to us, how Marcus started it off, like having that discussion, you know, there is a new shared service center set up. It's not like, you know, nice to have, if we have, you know, budget for that, then let's do something on employer branding, you know, that needs to, you know, that's part of the game. If you're not doing that, it's not gonna fly. So people, I think we as, you know, leaders, leading those things have to be really in that, and you know, being very strong on that, and I think that's gonna work. I mean, for us, it took some time as well. It wasn't easy, you know, getting the first Spotify session approved. And it took us like 9 months or so. You know, I mean, it's but now no one would ask. You know, this is how you are.
I will not prolong the discussion, but I think it's, yeah, thank you. Thank you, it was almost answered for me at least. But okay, so thank you very much. And to me, it's a lot of thoughts collected again and new ideas, perhaps to talk about offline as well. I leave the floor to the questions.
Yeah, that would be so good.
Go ahead.
Picking up everyone.
No questions?
I don't want.
Yeah.
I would like to understand like how much of your employer recommending in the office actually, and then what percentage is online and the other, you know, another percentage on that.
So like
No, I would rather say physical in the office, because even internally, I don't assume that it could happen online. My question is physically on the office. I would assume that like 30 or like pre-COVID, it was a larger percentage. And then my question is like how would you estimate like what percentage is it now in the office? And I know the office doesn't, but.
I think I would say the 30% is very condensed and compact, focusing on offline. And that has to be very much planned in advance. I think you have the 4th year birthday this week. And that was a moment, or when Bomber Krista was there and that was an ambassador event, that was a moment. These are not happening every week, but those 30% has to be quality because, and of course, in between there is a breakfast Q&A in between, which can be online, offline, just casual and not so much planned. But those ones which are physically, those are like something really quality, because then the people come in and not only for the food voucher, but you give them something. And those 30% is about that. The rest 70% is online. You can do everything online. That's my experience. And the 30% quality offline. And then you are giving. So they're not only asking, like, please come in. And then I just sit there and listen to a boring presentation. And for that, they don't come in.
I mean, the only thing I would add is like, yes, you can do a lot online, but it's different energies for myself. You know, doing a town hall online and doing it in a hybrid mode. You know, there is no only in office, and that's not going to happen probably in the future anymore. But it's very, very different to me. So as much as I can, we are doing it in a hybrid mode, because, you know, also for myself, I need to get somewhere, you know, the energy from as well. I'm stealing that from my guys. So I need to have them around, that I'm, you know, motivated enough, and, you know, I'm able to sense through very selfishly, but I feel, or I hope, that they are getting something out of that as well, much more on site than online.
Yeah, I would like to build on the provocative question, and that was about how you promote the international brand to group and also the market that want to gain and that attract more work. So have you observed any non-conventional or new strategies or approach, how you deal with the group company and those key stakeholders by represent voice, which is what Vodafone shared service center. And for me, what works very well is the relationship. So we are quite mature in the market. We have been there for more than 15 years. And our existing partners are actually the best advocates. So I think more than 60% of the growth that happened in the past 3 years are through recommendations, existing partners, telling new partners in another division that, hey, let's come to Budapest, let's try a small, pilot something, and then go to a much larger division. So have you experienced something similar or any other non-conventional new methods, strategies?
This is not so much my expertise. I think here what we try to do is that we focus a lot on the mid-management layer, because they have a lot of interactions with those stakeholders. And then they can talk about proudly what they are doing, then that spreads. And then we are doing a lot of trainings, or not only trainings, but like storytelling or like speaking trainings or communication trainings for mid-management team leaders, especially. Like, how can they proudly talk about what they do? And it doesn't mean they can't, or they have to hide something which they don't like, but like bring out what they are passionate about. And I think that's one of the ways where we are trying to have also such a positioning, that what I'm doing, I'm able to share it with in a random meeting, in a random environment, in an interview, or wherever I have to share it. That what I'm doing here, what's the quality I'm creating, what's the value I'm creating, why I'm doing, and if I have to do more, how I'm gonna manage that. Like, I think, because I think team leader levels, and I think that there is space for improvement, talking and communicating proudly about their job and their capabilities. And maybe it's a Hungarian thing, I don't know.
From my perspective, I can add, For us, it worked, the baby step approach. This is how we got there. No, not there, because the journey is going to take for the other years. But it's really, and we agreed on that. We need to build up the trust, the relationship. There is a lot we can screw up from a PR branding perspective once we go out there. So we need to be very, very careful. And it's a pretty conservative company from that perspective. So we need to be very, very much aware of that. But once you prove it's working, no harm, a great feedback, then we took the next steps, and that's going to continue. We are not there where we want to be. So 100 years to go. Well, that's kind of it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other question?
I might have one. So
employee branding is really great here. And one hand, it's really great if you can transform this information to outside from your office. So therefore, unknown people can know the company, but how does it grow inside? Because usually the biggest issue that I see and face in different companies that people usually hide what they are really doing, and it's even true outside from the company what they can say back or answer for the question. And how do you measure that? If you have a plan to figure out where you want to go, how you want to develop the company, how to run. How can you do it inside your company? Because that will be a change of the culture inside, and what people don't really like to change.
I like to do for we had some sense of the first thing which is important is if you're aiming on communicating something to the outside, but you're not living it inside, your entire campaign is failing because it has to be authentic, right? So your question is how to build a culture which is attractive to attract more people. And that's not about employer branding, that's about leadership, right? That is about how are your leaders able to engage with the people. Particularly your team leader level. Are you investing enough in that level? Are you making sure you have your ears to the ground as a leader? Do you know what's on people's mind? I mean, the idea of the stay interviews is fantastic because you really learn, right? And I can tell you which shared service centers it's very easy for me to hire from. And why? Because they tell me everything that their leaders are not doing well. So it's very easy for me, right? But build a great culture, which you believe will help you to build a sustaining operation and a hiring operation. Right?
So it's not that efficient.
I could.
You're not easy to hire. You're not easy to hire.
I would add one thing. I would add one thing that leaders and organizations need enablers because it's so much pressure on the leaders, I think. And when we are able to support that with good internal communication, with tools which are, I don't know, taking through certain messages which people maybe heard only on their onboarding day on the first 2 hours and never again. And then they have to go in a deep dive in the intranet to click here and there, and maybe they find some information in a 100-page PDF document about the child support. I'm just saying something, or the benefits. So I think we have to give leaders enablers and the culture enablers where people understand what they can get. And I think it's partly internet communication, it's partly reminding people about certain things. It's partly, maybe this worked 10 years, but we have to change certain things because that was our benefit package. It worked very well, but half of it has to be reconsidered. So I think there are certain things inside which can be facilitated by HR, by employer branding focused person, for the readers to succeed easier on those discussions, because then they don't have to explain, you can get this cafeteria element, you just have to click here and there, and leader's job is not that. So we have to help maybe the tools of employer branding too, so that people know about what is actually there or generate certain things too.
That helps, yeah. Another question? No? So with that, we close for today and leave the floor to networking possibilities. So thank you very much. Very useful ideas, very good discussion. Thank you.
I think you're doing a lot of things really well. Just you run, the challenge I'm having, I'm not being big enough, you're becoming too big, and some people don't want to have a big size anymore.
Well, there is a lot. Are we communicating it well enough? No, not at all. Not at all.